Relative to the original budget statement, government borrowing in 2019 is set to rise on the back of the mid-year supplementary expenditure request, which Parliament has since approved. This is seen in the projected increases in the budget deficit by 1.2 billion cedis and debt amortization spending by 5.2 billion cedis, which we are told is to pay off crystallized energy sector contingent liabilities. Now, this projected increase in the deficit as well as in debt amortization spending is going to occur in the face of an unchanged total revenue projection. So, following the mid-year budget, the government retained its revenue expectation for the whole year in spite of the new taxes, meaning that the new taxes were simply going to help to plug the shortfall that otherwise would have been seen without the taxes. So in the face of that unchanged projection, any additional spending will have to be financed by borrowing. So the total supplementary request of 6.4 billion cedis is going to be funded by debt. This additional borrowing will further increase the debt stock, which hit 203.9 billion in June 2019, and the debt to GDP ratio, which reached 59.2% of GDP in the same period. This suggests that the fall in the debt ratio to below 60% of GDP since the rebasing of the national income accounts in 2018 has given a false sense of security about the debt position. In reality, however, there should be no comfort taken in a lower debt to GDP ratio in the present circumstances. Now, a better way to assess the debt and its sustainability is to look at what is happening to debt service expenditure in relation to government revenue. Now, back to the screen, the figure there illustrates the behavior of debt service expenditure, which is made up of expenditure on interest as well as expenditure on amortization, which refers to expenditure to pay down the part of the principal of the foreign debt. So the two give you the debt service expenditure of the government. This chart measures the debt service expenditure as a relation to total government revenue and grants. You will find that for 2013, debt service spending absorbed about 27% of total revenue and grants. But this increased rapidly to 47.9% in 2016. The ratio then fell slightly to 44.5% in 2017 and 44.3% in 2018. And with the revisions to spending in the mid-year budget, the ratio is set to rise sharply to 51.2% in 2019. So debt service is going to consume 51.2% of total public revenues in 2019. And this is close to double the 2013 ratio. Thus, the burden of debt service expenditure on the government's finances is very high and is increasing, as you can see from the chart, even if the debt to GDP ratio is now lower because of the GDP rebasing and recalculation. We think that this calls for urgent steps, to limit further borrowing. Beyond that, it's crucial to eliminate extra budgetary expenditures and borrowing, which we dwelt extensively on at our last press conference. Because despite extra budgetary expenditures tending to be excluded from the deficit and the debt, they still create debt service liabilities that must be met from the same limited revenue envelope available to the government.